I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything.
All right, betters, how we doing? Let me know if the audio sounds okay, because I'm using a different kind of mic here. So I'm going to look at the comments. And we're going to do this. All right, sounds good. Cool. All right, so we got the hearing tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, okay? I'm going to start my live stream at 9:30 to sort of pregame, right? Come in. These things, you know, done a lot of these live streams already. They typically start late, y'all. So I would plan on the hearing starting, 5 to 15 minutes late. But once it gets going, it gets going. So, yeah, that should be pretty exciting. I'll put a link down below. It's on the channel. You can find it to the stream. It's already up. So, and I'll be sharing it all tomorrow morning as well once we get going. But with that said, I thought I'd do a quick live stream tonight because they released the witness statements for the witnesses, right? Which I called last week. I said they'd release it on Monday because they always do. So we've got them. I'm going to read them. It's going to be maybe a little boring. That's why I didn't make a video. So for those, really want to be in deep on every word here. I mean, you're going to hear them read the statements tomorrow morning. But what is also interesting is there's a fifth witness, and witness may be the wrong word, but you'll see what I mean when we get to it. So I say let's just jump in and get this going. All right, hang on. First thing we're going to do is look at all the witnesses. Okay. So let's bring that up, and then we'll go through. All right, here we go. Boom. So, all right. So everything here. Okay, it's called Restoring Public Trust Through UAP Transparency and Whistleblower Protection. And the whistleblower protection, that's what the fifth witness has to do with, the surprise fifth witness that none of us knew about. Anyway, we'll get to that here in a second. Okay, so yeah, tomorrow, September 9, 10 a.m., blah, blah, blah. All right. Jeffrey Nucatelli, Air Force veteran. Chief Alejandro Wiggins, UAP witness. George Knapp, UAP journalist. We got Dylan Borland here, UAP witness and U.S. Air Force veteran. And that was someone we didn't know about either. Right, we'd never heard this person's story or name before. But then this one right here, this is a new name. Joe Spielberger, minority witness, senior policy counsel, project on government oversight. So we'll get to all of that. But let's jump in, right? I've got Jeffrey's, this thing, I got a damn fly here, John. I got an orb, guys. I got an orb coming in here. What's funny is I didn't see that fly this whole time. All of a sudden I do the live stream, it's here. Y'all think that's a real fly? Are they spying on me here? All right, let me pick up, let's get Jeffrey Nucatelli's, Nucatelli, listen to me. And I hope I'm saying Nucatelli right, I don't know. Nucatelli, sounds like, it's Italian. All right, here we go, boom. And we'll get some chat also going, as we go through this after each statement. All right, y'all. So, and by the way, I don't know if y'all noticed, but at the bottom right of the screen, the chat is up there. I can't make it any bigger. If I could, I would. Maybe there's a way. I don't know. I haven't found it. But so your chat's going up there. So be friendly. All right. So here we go. This is Jeffrey Nucatelli's opening written testimony, right? Chairman Luna, ranking member, and members of the task force, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Jeffrey Nucatelli. I'm a former military police officer with 16 years of active duty service in the United States Air Force. I am here today because the American people have both the right and responsibility to know the truth about unidentified aerial phenomena. That truth remains hidden, classified, and silenced by fear, retaliation, stigma, and confusion. Today, we are here to help break that silence. Between 2003 and 2005, 5 UAP incidents occurred at Vandenberg Air Force Base, home to the National Missile Defense Project, a top national security priority. At the time, we were conducting launches deemed by the National Reconnaissance Office as the most important in 25 years. These facilities were vital, and they were repeatedly visited by UAP. Each incident was witnessed by multiple personnel, documented, investigated, and reported up the chain of command. We sent information up, but no guidance came down. I personally witnessed one of these events and investigated others. 6 other service members, all direct eyewitnesses, have provided the information I share today. The incursions began on October 14, 2003, when Boeing contractors reported a massive glowing red square silently hovering over 2 missile defense sites. After several minutes, it drifted east and vanished behind the hills. This event, now known as the Vandenberg Red Square, was later referenced by Representative Luna during the first public hearing on this topic. Official Air Force records documenting it are now held by Aero and the FBI. Later that night, while I was on duty, security guards at a critical launch site reported a bright, fast-moving object. As I responded, the radio interrupted with panic. "It's coming right at us. Now, it's right here." Moments later, it took off. It's gone. It's like reading like a movie script here. Right? All right. When I arrived, 5 shaken witnesses described a massive rectangular craft larger than a football field that hovered silently for about 45 seconds before shooting away at incredible speed. About a week later, another patrol reported a strange light over the ocean, heading toward the base. Believing it to be an unannounced aircraft, they declared an emergency and launched an armed response. Before forces arrived, the object descended, hovering briefly, and landed, then vanished instantly into the night sky. The witness was later threatened and told to keep quiet about the incident, discouraging further reports. And after that, things stayed quiet until 2005, when a patrol reported a massive triangular craft larger than a C-130, hovering low over the main base. It drifted silently across the installation before disappearing into the night. And then I had my own encounter. I was off duty, sitting in my backyard at night with 2 friends. We noticed what first appeared to be a satellite, but its rhythmic pulse was unlike anything we had seen. As we watched, it started maneuvering like a butterfly and would vanish and reappear in a different patch of sky. The object dropped steadily in altitude, and then it vanished and then reappeared 200 feet over my house. It was a huge glowing orb of blue-white light, but it appeared solid, and the light did not radiate from it. It vanished again and reappeared a moment later in a different position. The orb then gently accelerated, and we watched it for about 40 seconds as it receded into the night sky and became indistinguishable from the stars. These events profoundly changed my life and the lives of my friends and coworkers. They were not rumors or misidentifications. They were unresolved incursions over one of our nation's most important bases. We stand at a pivotal moment in history. The question is no longer whether these events are real, but whether we have the courage to face them. True leadership requires vision, a willingness to confront the unknown with transparency and resolve. So I ask Congress to help we the people enact this vision. There are 3 goals. 1, fund independent research and treat UAP study with the same seriousness as any other scientific field. 2, end secrecy and overclassification. Transparency is the foundation of truth. Without it, Witnesses like me are dismissed and the truth remains hidden. 3. Protect the witnesses. Many stay silent out of fear for careers, reputations, even safety. Protect them, and you embolden others to come forward. These phenomena challenge our deepest assumptions about reality, consciousness, and our place in the universe. Exploring them could unlock transformative breakthroughs in technology, biology, and human understanding. Let this be the moment when America chooses courage over fear, transparency over secrecy, and progress over stagnation. Let's show the world that our nation leads not only through strength, but in the fearless pursuit of truth. Okay, that is quite a speech there. And that's very interesting. You know, there's different parts that are like bolded, right? Like in bold. And this part in the story is in bold. It's almost like if you take anything away, take this from my story away, right? It's a huge glowing orb of blue-white light, but it appeared solid and the light did not radiate from it. It's like, you know, wants to make a point that people take that away from the story, if anything. How does he know the light doesn't radiate from it? I don't know. It appeared solid. Okay. And it appeared that the light did not radiate from it. Okay. All right. I mean, that's crazy, right? All right. That's an insane story. That would be scary. All right. Let's move to the next witness here. Reading a few of these comments here. What do y'all think? Yeah, like this is interesting. You know, he's testifying to stuff that happened, you know, at work and his personal life. And you know, it's interesting, like Lou Elizondo also testified, and he didn't mention anything about the orbs flying in his house in his testimony, you know? All right, let's move to Wiggins. Alejandro Wiggins, who is currently still in the Navy, which makes his testimony, I don't know, that's pretty powerful, you know? And you'll see what I mean. So this is his statement. And none of the other witness statements that have ever come out look like this, because he's still in the Navy. And if you'll notice right here, cleared for open publication September 4th, 2025, so very recently, Department of Defense, Office of Pre-Publication and Security Review, right? So it also says up here, the views expressed in this article are those of the author and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Department of Defense or the U.S. government. Statement of Alejandro C. Wiggins, eyewitness of UFO/UAP event, U.S. Navy Senior Chief Petty Officer. For the record, Committee on Oversight, hearing, okay. Yeah, they further release themselves. I guess something redacted there, I'm not sure. Introduction. All right, Chairman, Ranking Member, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to submit the statement. I'm in active duty U.S. Navy Senior Chief Petty Officer, Operations Specialist, with approximately 23 years of service. During the incident described below, I was serving aboard USS Jackson. I am providing this testimony in my personal capacity. The views expressed are mine and do not represent the official positions of the Department of Defense, the Department of Navy, or any subordinate organization. Executive summary, date, time, place, 15th of February, 2023 at approximately 7:15 Pacific Standard Time in the W291 warning area off the Southern California coast. Vessel role, USS Jackson, LCS-6. I was in and out of the Combat Information Center and the bridge wing during the event. Phenomena, a self-luminous tic-tac shaped object was observed emerging from the ocean transmedium, then linking up with 3 similar objects. All 4 departed simultaneously in a highly synchronized, near instantaneous manner. No sonic boom or conventional propulsion signatures were observed. Sensors, evidence. Objects were detected on multiple sensors, including radar, and video was recorded inside CIC using a star-sapphire multispectral system, IR system. Location and timestamps are visible in the source video frames published by journalists. So this guy had originally come out on Weaponized like 4 or 5 months ago and showed the video. You know, there's video. He talks about the incident. You know, real quick, it's interesting. Tic-tac, right? Tic-tac. Why send that message home? Tic-tac. It's another tic-tac. Like, it's in that shape, but that he wants to call it a tic-tac it's I don't know, just that's interesting to me. Could be nothing. Could be nothing. Let's keep going. Background and duties. As an operations specialist in Watch Standard, my responsibilities include the integration of sensor tracks, air and surface picture management, and safety of navigation. On the evening in question, the ship was in transit within W291. CIC operators were actively monitoring the IR feed and radar picture. I moved between CIC and the bridge wing to correlate sensors with visual observation. He should break that down more layman's terms, I think, for testimony, right? Incident narrative, chronology. Number 1, initial awareness. Anomalous returns and or cues led to focused observation on the IR display within CIC. The object under observation presented no visible control. And then again, the views expressed, that's on every page, I guess. Presented no visible control surfaces and no exhaust plume. Features inconsistent with conventional aircraft or drones as typically seen on Sapphire in similar environmental conditions. Transmedium emergence. I visually observed a light rising from the waterline, consistent with a platform emerging from the ocean rather than distant surface lights or celestial rise. This was corroborated by what was being viewed on the Sapphire display. 3, formation of 4. The emerging object linked up with 3 additional tic-tac-like objects. The 4 maintained relative geometry consistent with a controlled formation. 4, synchronized departure. All 4 objects departed at the same moment with an acceleration profile that subjectively appeared near instantaneous. No sonic boom or other acoustic signature associated with high-speed flight was perceived. Radar picture no longer displayed the objects immediately after departure. Sensor corroboration and on-scene collection. IR Sapphire. CIC crew recorded handheld IR video of at least 2 of the objects. The release stabilized footage includes timestamps, lat long, and platform readouts consistent with USS Jackson's location in W29 at the time of the encounter. Radar. The objects are described as detected on multiple reconnaissance platforms, including radar. Shortly after the synchronized departure, the tracks dropped. I observed the radar picture no longer, displaying the objects immediately after their departure. Cinematics, I'm assuming? I don't know if that's what you say. Signatures. Across IR, we did not observe standard propulsion signatures, heat plumes, exhaust, or control surface articulation commonly associated with fixed wing or rotary wing craft. An approximate altitude reference, 22,000 feet, is reflected in conversation among CIC operators in the published transcript excerpts. Context and recurrence. Based on long service in the region and the public characterization accompanying the published materials, unidentified objects are reportedly encountered with some regularity in the operating areas off Southern California, the same general vicinity associated with the 2004 Tic Tac incident. My experience that night is consistent with the assertion that the area merits systemic, stigma-free observation and reporting. Interesting. So they are trying to connect it with the Tic Tac hence calling it Tic Tac. All right. Post-incident actions to the extent unclassified. Collection. CIC personnel recorded the encounter on Star Sapphire with data overlays showing time/location and made appropriate reports to the tactical action officer. Awareness. The incident details and source video screenshots were later published by journalists, including the date, time, coordinates platform, and crew dialogue excerpts. Public testimony. I subsequently described the encounter publicly with journalists Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp to ensure an accurate firsthand record exists and to reduce stigma for other service members who may have similar observations. Conclusion. On 15th of February 2023, near the Southern California ranges, I witnessed, corroborated by shipboard sensors, 4 tic-tac-like objects, one emerging from the ocean, then departing in synchronized fashion without conventional signatures. The event was recorded from within CIC and has been publicly documented with time, location, and platform details. I submit this statement to assist the committee in improving safety, reporting fidelity, and analytic rigor regarding unidentified anomalous phenomena in U.S. operating areas. All right, he puts an appendix here, references. All right. So that's Alejandro Wiggins. And we got a few more here. Yeah, his story is interesting. Again, it's kind of interesting about the Tic Tacs. They're really trying to send that home. It takes place in the same area. Ross Coulthart's come out and said that's Lockheed Martin. So does that mean this is Lockheed Martin, right? And I guess if I remember correctly from what I just read, so one took off, but the others did. How did the others how did they go? Did they go normally? I don't know if that brought up in there. Anyway, very interesting. Definitely very interesting. Clearly, they're going to be asked more questions, right? They'll be able to give more details, and they're probably trying to keep this short, right? There's more they could say, but can't put it all there. I get it. I totally get that. But this is a good start. Again, we've heard, not with Nucatelli, we haven't heard everything in his opening statement before. Wiggins, most of that, I think, was, revealed before. Let's get to George Knapp, man. I'm excited to read George Knapp's. I'm excited to read these last 3, to be honest with you. Right? 2 we never heard of. 1 was a surprise witness, and George Knapp here. So let's get to the goodies here, y'all. Let's get to the goodies. Excuse me, I'm reading a lot. Okay, I gotta stay refreshed here, y'all. Drinking an Arnold Palmer. Who likes those? Look at me drinking an Arnold Palmer behind a painting. Right, you almost think I'm balling out here. I'm not. This is my cousin's house. Don't forget, y'all, I'm on the road. Art like this isn't really my thing, to be honest with you. I mean, it's nice, but it's not my thing. I'd have a Banksy up if I could get something. Anyway, all right, let's get to George Knapp. I'm very excited about George Knapp here. All right, here we go. Everyone's wondering what George is going to say, right? All right, and I haven't read these. I have no idea what they say. I'm hearing all this for the first time with you guys. George's is pretty long, so I mean, screw it. All right, here we go. For the record, the Committee on Oversight and Accountability hearing on unidentified anomalous phenomena, September 9th, 2025. Okay, I should skip all that shit. All right, here we go. Good morning, Chairwoman, Ranking Member. Okay, I'm George Knapp. Excuse me. Chief Investigative Reporter for KLAS TV in Las Vegas, not a whistleblower and not a UFO witness, as far as I can remember, that is. My pursuit, wait a second, what does that mean? As far as I can remember, that is that maybe that's a joke. If George is starting with a little joke in there, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like that. Just cut the air in the room, you know what I mean? Just everybody, let's relax. My pursuit of the UFO mystery and the many rabbit holes attached to it started in 1987, 38 years ago. Nearly every day since then, I get asked the question, do I believe this UFO stuff? Do I believe in aliens or ETs? And my answer is no. Belief has nothing to do with it. To me, it is and always has been a news story, and an important one. Likely the biggest story I will ever cover. I'm not sure if there's another reporter working for a mainstream news organization who has stuck with the story as long, nor could I imagine anyone would want to do so. It is a great honor to be asked to participate here, and also an honor to be seated with these three men. It is daunting to testify under oath in front of Congress and essentially the whole world, especially about something as sensitive and controversial as this. No matter how things go here today, this will likely change their lives. All right, I like Nap's energy here. Okay. It takes courage for them to step into the spotlight because they know they will be pummeled for it. The barrage started on social media as soon as the names were announced, and it did for members of this task force. The residents of UFO world are a tough crowd. They expect nothing less than for house staffers to wheel in a slab with a charred alien body on it, or arrange a media tour where we travel to Wright-Patterson and kick open the doors to the Blue Room to see the crashed saucers. You're goddamn right. I understand that impatience and was the same way. During my first deep dive into the subject, I remembered realizing this topic is a mess, and I concluded that what it needed was a good reporter. I can have this sorted out in about 6 months. Youthful cockiness and naivete is not a good combination. Topic 1, the paper trail. What hooked me on the subject was not the tales of crashed saucers or Area 51. It was the paper trail, the massive piles of government documents which paint a different picture than what the public is told about UFOs. The first time I saw some of them, they literally walked in the door under the arm of a guy named John Lear, son of Bill Lear, developer of the Learjet, who had helped our TV station break a big story years earlier. A story about the testing of a plane out in the Nevada desert, a plane that was invisible to radar. It turned out it was the F-117, the Nighthawk, the stealth fighter. It proved to be real. I just had a thought, but I'm going to save that. Later, Lear returned to KLAS and brought a stack of paper, and in that stack were dozens of pages of legitimate documents, squeezed out of the U.S. government through the use of FOIA. The public has been told over and over since the late 1940s that there's nothing to worry about. These things aren't real. They're not a threat. The witnesses are crackpots. But FOIA forced the Air Force, CIA, FBI, NASA, and other agencies to release thousands of pages of internal memos and reports and candid assessments written in complete candor long before anyone knew FOIA would exist in the future. It was clear that what they were told each other behind closed doors was the opposite of what they told the public. They lied and are still lying to the public and to Congress. The documents show that military and intelligence personnel admitted that, quote, these are real, not fictitious, that they fly in formation, are evasive, and outperform any aircraft known to exist, including ours. This is what hooked me. I was ticked off that they were lying to us. Given our time constraints, I won't list key documents here, but I'm forwarding a detailed list so you can read them for yourself, including a report prepared for you, members of Congress, by the Congressional Research Service. And I recommend the names of a few highly credible UFO document archives where members and staff can read the material for yourselves. Topic 2, crash retrievals and reverse engineering programs. They're real. Back in 1989, I was not aware that I was diving into the deep end of the pool when I reported about Bob Lazar and S4, the place out near Area 51 where Lazar said there was a reverse engineering program underway. I'm well aware of the objections and questions about Lazar. It does not matter to me whether people believe him or not, and I won't litigate it yet again. If I did not believe him, I would not still be reporting on his claims. KLAS news director Robert Stoldahl and I knew this investigation was risky for the station, so we approached it cautiously. This was a potentially huge story, but we needed more than just Lazar to move forward, and so we went to work. I appealed on the air and asked people who had knowledge of this to contact me, and over time, they did. I had more than 24 sources with bits and pieces of the same story who spoke to us. The most alarming development in that process is that I spoke to 6 people, 6 in a row, on my phone in the newsroom, who agreed to tell me their stories, some of them under the condition that we disguise their identities. And 6 people right in a row were visited the very next day after speaking to me by government agents, security from former employers, men in black types who essentially threatened them and told them to keep their mouths shut. One of the people who agreed to speak to me had worked for a prominent defense contractor. She told me about sitting in a meeting with Air Force officers in which they discussed crashed UFOs. The people came to see her after she spoke to me, told her she was still the subject to her NDA, and adding that they knew her daughter lived in LA, that both she and her daughter would drive to see each other on occasion, and then the 2 men in suits ended with this: "It's a big desert out there. It would be a shame if anything happened to either of you." She was terrified. The idea that someone would issue veiled death threats to this family was jarring to me and outrageous. Also outrageous was the realization that someone had been listening to the phone in my office. It seemed unlikely a judge would approve wiretaps of a news organization. The first person I told outside of our newsroom about the story we were pursuing was Nevada Senator Harry Reid, who would later become Senate Majority Leader. I worried he might think I was crazy, but instead, he said he was interested. It was the start of a private collaboration and conversation that continued for the rest of his life. Senator Reid was immensely helpful to me over the years, but didn't really want to be too public about his interest. That private conversation proved to be immensely important years later. Suffice to say, by the time he co-sponsored the creation of the largest U.S. investigation of UFO matters, Senator Reid firmly believed that the U.S., Russia, and China had recovered advanced unknown technology and were in a race to reverse engineer the technology. The first one to do so would control everything. Here's another name who also believed it: Howard Cannon. Senator Cannon, a predecessor to Reid, was a bomber pilot and hero, a staunch defender of defense spending, Nellis and Area 51, and who had a personal relationship with the top guys at Lockheed. Cannon had never spoken publicly about UFOs, but his son Alan confided in me that his father told him the story about Roswell and crash debris was true. I knew Senator Cannon during his years in office and wrangled a face-to-face with him. He told me that his best friend in the Senate, Republican Barry Goldwater, had spoken to Cannon several times about what was being hidden at Wright-Patterson. Goldwater suspected it was UFO crash material, so he asked for permission to get in and see it. And even though he was a ranking member of Armed Services and Intelligence Committees, the response wasn't merely no, but hell no, and never ask again. I corresponded with Senator Goldwater in the early 90s, and he confirmed the story to me. When I asked Cannon on camera about it, he said yes, that's what happened. Admitted he was also curious, then hinted that if Cannon had asked, he thought he could get the okay. But then he said, what would be the point? You couldn't tell anyone about it. Next name, Al O'Donnell. I've told this story in public before, but we have not confirmed the name. Wow. Okay, here we go, y'all. I kept working the story and looked for people who were in a position to know if this story was legitimate. Someone suggested I try to get Al O'Donnell to open up. Mr. O'Donnell is considered one of the 100 most important people in the development of modern Las Vegas. He had been at MIT when the 3 founders of EG&G engineered their amazing technology and became vital to the U.S. nuclear weapons program. O'Donnell was sent to Las Vegas to be the first general manager of the EG&G operation there. It meant he had the highest clearances for the most important national security program in the world. He accumulated years of direct hands-on experience with atomic weapons, hundreds of which were exploded in the Nevada desert and elsewhere. He was the real deal. It took me a while, but he agreed to open up about that subject. We would meet in coffee shops and he would answer my questions, but I wasn't allowed to take notes. I always rushed to my car afterward and scribbled down shorthand versions of what he shared with me. Over several months, he told me that he was directly involved in securing what amounted to a flying saucer that had crashed, most likely in 1953. He said it wasn't kept at Area 51. It was hidden at Indian Springs Air Base outside of Las Vegas, now known as Creech Air Force Base. Eventually, he also said there was a live being housed out there, a crash survivor, but they did not know how to communicate with their captive. Its existence was only known by a handful of people. He said sometime after 1955, when Area 51 was created, the craft and the being were moved from Indian Springs to somewhere near Groom Lake, but he was never specific. Sometime later, at our final coffee meeting, he told me he had been warned to stop talking to me. He told me he could not meet with me anymore. A few years later, a new version of the story emerged, one different in every aspect. An anonymous source who sounded to me like a carbon copy of Al O'Donnell told a book author the Roswell saucer was a Russian-made craft that was crashed on purpose in a remote, barely populated desert New Mexico. The Russians allegedly wanted to start an alien invasion public panic, but picked an odd place to do it. The alien-looking bodies were said to be concentration camp survivors who had been surgically altered by the infamous Nazi Dr. Josef Mengele to look like beings from outer space. This sounds like Annie Jacobson's story. So Al O'Donnell, okay, this is interesting. Wow, okay. I mean, for those of us deep inside, this is interesting for, it's still interesting. Okay, let's just keep going. Take your pick. Al had a reason for changing the story. Someone told him to do it. So that's interesting. So George Knapp is claiming the story Annie Jacobson got is fake. The one he got was real. He got the first story, the original story. A more current source regarding unknown technology is Dr. James Lakatsky. This is interesting. He's bringing up James Lakatsky. Hang on, y'all. I'll do a lot of reading here. A more current source regarding unknown technology is Dr. James Lakatsky. Dr. Lakatsky is a brilliant man who spent the bulk of his career working for the Defense Intelligence Agency. He and the DIA colleague came up with the idea for the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Application Program, OSAP. OSAP is the acronym for the program mentioned earlier in the presentation. It is the largest UFO investigation ever funded by the U.S. government that we know of. Senator Harry Reid and two other senior senators secured the funding for the program. It was highly compartmentalized, even by the standards of DIA. Dr. Lakatsky is a by-the-book guy. He does not spill secrets unless the information is approved through the DOPSR process, and so long as it does not endanger national security. As a matter of disclosure, I'm a co-author of two books written primarily by Dr. Lakatsky and Dr. Colm Kelleher, the principal manager of OSAP in Las Vegas. Kelleher worked for Robert Bigelow, a successful developer and aerospace contractor in Nevada. His company, BAS, or BASE, or whatever we're calling it, was awarded the DIA contract for OSAP. In an amazingly short turnaround, BAS managed to recruit and hire 50 full-time investigators for BAS, most of them former military or law enforcement, and all of whom were able to qualify for top-secret security clearances. As I mentioned in a statement submitted to Congress during the 2023 hearing into the subject, BAS, what was that? BAS, BAS, BAS. There we go. Why can't I get that right? I keep forgetting. BAS, OSAP, generated an enormous amount of research and content in its 27-month existence. In addition to more than 36 preliminary reports, DIRDs, the program compiled the largest known UFO database, or rather data warehouse, consisting of more than 240,000 case files obtained from multiple other collections, including files from other governments. The data warehouse was designed and overseen by Dr. Jacques Vallée, and has reportedly been used by U.S. agencies up to the present date. BASS OSAP also produced more than 100 highly detailed papers focusing on different issues and questions, including studies of the health effects on humans from encounters with UFO, UAP technology. None of these 100-plus reports have been released by DIA, though a few have been leaked. In 2023, the usually tight-lipped Dr. Lakatsky dropped a bombshell. Hey, George, that's my word. He revealed that he had been in high-level talks with the Department of Homeland Security to create a new program dubbed Kona Blue. During the discussions with the U.S. Senator and an undersecretary of DHS, Lakatsky revealed that the U.S. is in possession of a craft of unknown origin and had successfully gained access to its interior. The craft has a streamlined configuration suitable for aerodynamic flight, but no intakes, exhaust, wings, or control services. In fact, it appeared not to have an engine, fuel tanks, or fuel. What was the purpose of this craft? Lakatsky flat out stated to a senior government official and a sitting senator that our government does have at least one UFO, though he did not say where it is or how it was acquired. And in multiple conversations since 2023, he has declined to say anything more. The BASS OSAP effort was a success on every level, producing an inordinate amount of data and analysis. But when its existence was leaked, which stunned other power centers in the national security establishment, the funding was pulled and the program ended. However, while OSAP was active, the prime contractor, BASS owner Robert Bigelow, made a bold attempt to acquire physical proof of UFO crashes. It had been widely reported over many years that aerospace titan Lockheed Martin is one of the defense contractors entrusted with mystery material and perhaps entire craft. The principal facility at Groom Lake was built to be a safe haven and testing ground for Lockheed's legendary spy plane, the U-2. Later, it was home to the A-12, the first of the Blackbird superplanes, also designed by Lockheed. Could it be true that Lockheed was a repository for intact saucers, crash debris, or perhaps bodies? Robert Bigelow decided to find out. This is no longer a rumor. Whoa. I have confirmed that Bigelow and a trusted colleague met with and negotiated with a senior executive at Lockheed and hammered out a deal wherein Bigelow's company BASS would receive a quantity of unusual material that Lockheed was safeguarding at a facility in California. A source who was in the room for that discussion has confirmed this. The material was not made here. It contained no unknown element, no unobtainium, but its composition suggested it had been crafted in a zero-gravity environment. In other words, space. As far as anyone knows, we do not have any manufacturing plants in space, nor does anyone else. The agreement was not completed. There are two reasons for that. People can believe it or not. There is a crash recovery program, and reverse engineering has been underway for a long time, with limited success. A veteran intelligence operative, David Grush, who documented the existence of such programs while working with the UAP task force, testified to Congress back in 2023 about this. The testimony was under oath. Mr. Grush now works for Representative Burleson as an advisor on these matters. Topic 3, the Russia files. Okay, hang on. I gotta stretch before we jump into this. People were wondering if he was going to bring this up. This is going to be controversial for people. Not like anything else he said hasn't. There's just a lot to take in, right? All right. Topic 3, the Russia files. As one of the planet's other nuclear superpowers, do the Russians also have a program to study UFOs and crashes and materials? The answer is yes. The task force now has copies of documents I obtained from the Russian Ministry of Defense and from affiliated organizations back in the 90s. Some of this material has been reported to the public over the years, but only a few pages of the original documents have been shared. I was asked to share the most important papers with Bass and the DIA and did so because I wanted someone way smarter than me to figure out whether they are legit and what they mean. OSAP did that. The documents and interviews I obtained in my 1993 visit to Moscow show the USSR launched what is almost certainly the largest UFO investigation in world history. The first phase included standing order to every element of the vast Soviet military empire to fully investigate every UFO sighting, whether it was a craft, orb, unusual ball of light, or other kinds of close encounters. The military witnesses were to be interviewed, evidence including photos, drawings, and physical effects were to be gathered, and all the material was to be forwarded to a single office at the Ministry of Defense. That program lasted a full 10 years, 1978 to 1988, and possibly longer. And then another program grew out of that, dubbed Thread 3, which seemed to be an analysis program that also monitored UFO cases, news reports, and government interest in the U.S. and other Western nations. The purpose of these efforts was very simple, as told to me by Colonel Boris Sokolov, who was head of the MOD program. He said that many thousands of reports were collected during his part of the program for the purpose of figuring out the technology that UFOs displayed, unpredictable movements, the maneuverability and quick angles, and because UFOs could be seen visually but not on radar, or seen on radar but not visually, quote, if the secrets of the UFOs could be discovered, we would be able to win the competition against our potential enemies in terms of velocity, materials, and visibility. The fighter planes could intercept, but in 3 cases where Russian planes fired, in other words, the Russians were trying to reverse engineer UFOs, that was underway decades ago. Sokolov and his files documented highly alarming encounters, similar to what our own military has encountered. He told me on camera there had been 40 incidents in which Russian fighter planes were sent to intercept unknown craft. In most of the cases, the UFOs zipped away before the pilots could shoot at the unknowns. But in 3 cases where the MiGs did fire, the planes fell out of the sky. 2 of those pilots died. After that, the standing order changed. When you see a UFO, change course and get out. I was able to get a follow-up to this policy when I returned to Moscow in 1996 and interviewed General Igor Maltsev, who had issued that standing order. He explained that the pilots were told to leave the UFOs alone because, quote, they could have incredible capacities for retaliation. The Ministry of Defense folks shared with me photos of Russian MiGs that tried to intercept UFOs, but had their wings clipped in mid-air collisions. I have provided photos to the task force. Do we get to see those photos? Why would you not think that going after UFOs to begin with, they would have those kind of capacities? But, okay. There were also dozens of cases, Sokolov says, in which ground forces fired upon UFOs. But the on-the-ground soldiers say UFOs knocked out car engines, along with radar, radio, and communication systems. There are also a few incidents in those files in which the military personnel were literally frozen, immobilized, when they tried to shoot down the UFOs. The Russians had been studying UFOs as far back as Roswell in 1947. Stalin had an interest and had tasked his top scientists to find out what had crashed at Roswell. They eventually told Stalin it wasn't any craft known to exist on Earth, wasn't American, certainly wasn't Russian. For decades afterward, the official position of the USSR was that UFOs were a propaganda distraction manufactured by the West, and it discouraged any public interest or investigation. Behind the scenes, they tasked scientists and intelligence assets to find out what these things were and whether the Russians could build their own. Basically, the USSR was doing the same thing our government has done all these years. Tell the public one thing and do the opposite in secrecy. In other words, lie. The most disturbing incident I was able to document after reading the files and speaking to Russian military leaders who were part of these classified programs occurred in October 1982 at a missile base in Ukraine. These missiles were meant to be fired at Western targets, including the U.S. The report had been sent to the Chief of the General, their version of the Joint Chiefs. A UFO had appeared over the Ukraine missile base. It was observed for 4 hours. In that time, the UFO split into pieces, merged back together, displayed amazing velocity and other abilities, and then, unexpectedly, something or someone entered the correct launch codes for the missiles. In Sokolov's words, it was a spontaneous illumination of all displays. Those missiles fired up and appeared ready to be launched. The officers at the controls could not shut them down. They tried their best to disengage, but could not. This was World War III about ready to start, and there was nothing the Russians could do to stop it. And then, poof, the UFOs vanished in an instant. And when they did, the missiles turned themselves off. Colonel Sokolov and his team were sent from Moscow to investigate. They took apart the control panels, could not find anything wrong. This was not a power surge or a security test using EMP or any other weak cover stories that have been used in this country to try to debunk or explain away similar events that have been reported at our own nuclear missile facilities. The Ministry of Defense concluded that this was a message sent by the UFO. By the way, while I have spoken publicly about the Ukraine incidents a few times over the years since I returned from Russia, I have never made public the witness statements, all of them Russian military officers. The task force has now been supplied with copies of all of those statements. So Knapp reaching into those boxes behind him, you see in all those interviews on Weaponized. You know what I'm saying? All right, we're almost done here. Okay. Oof. Another of the most unsettling findings during the visits to Russia is what we learned from a Russian physicist, Dr. Rimily Avramenko. He showed us a table model of what he called the weapon of the aliens. It was a plasma beam generator, and he demonstrated what that little model could do, burning an instantaneous hole in a razor blade. Avramenko and other military figures told us that Russia is well aware of ongoing secretive programs in the U.S., wherein our agencies monitor and collect UFO information via advanced sensor platforms in an effort to understand and duplicate the technology. In other words, reverse engineering. I met with and interviewed dozens of Russians during my 2 visits in the 90s and believe the overall meaning of their considerable efforts is that they take UFOs seriously, and that all of that research and resources over so many years was carried out for the purpose of building and deploying their own versions of the advanced technology they had seen in their skies, on land, and underwater. They know that we know what the Russians are doing, and the Russians know, well, we know what they have been doing. The difference is the Russians essentially admitted this back in the 90s, while their American counterparts still pretend none of this is real and tell the same old lies to the public and to Congress. One other note on the Russian files. After I shared much of this material with OSAP and Bass, they put a team together to do translations and analysis, far more than I could do on my own. The full report is included in one of those unreleased papers submitted to DIA and still bottled up there, but we were allowed to publish a brief synopsis, which reveals that there was a much larger program than Thread 3, a shadowy group known as Unit 73790, which controlled 3 separate UFO programs. So a much larger effort than anyone has known before. It looks like they were way ahead of us as far as 30 years ago. That's George Knapp, y'all. That is George Knapp. That's a long witness statement, y'all. I think that just took me 20 minutes to read. It's dense. It's a lot in there. I mean, I'm in. I'm in. All right, we have 2 more. Really just one, because the last one, it's a surprise witness. We are going to go over it, but you'll see. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's too much. So we got 2 left, Dylan Borland and this top secret other witness that just got added. Nobody knew about him. All right, let's get Mr. Borland. Where's the kahuna, chef? I don't know, Andre. Where is the kahuna? You're right. Where is the big kahuna, y'all? I mean, if you were going to present like materials or something like that, would you say that in your opening statement? And here's the UFO, right? You're just like, not that that's what's going to happen, but Borland, okay. So I'm interesting about this guy. I don't know anything about him. I'm literally going in fresh like some of you right now with this guy. Brand new to me. I've never heard his name. I don't know shit. I've seen a picture. I've seen a few people speculate, but let's find out. All right. Whistleblower statement. Okay. For the House of Representatives Task Force, Dylan Borland. 2 pages. Thank you, Dylan. Oh, good Lord. You're the man, dog. I would like to express my gratitude for being invited to testify to the current task force created under the People's Chamber and the American public. As an American citizen, veteran, and intelligence community professional, it's an honor and privilege to serve under oath before you on behalf of our country. My name is Dylan Borland. I'm a former 1-in-1 geospatial intelligence specialist for the U.S. Air Force in an active duty enlisted capacity from 2010 to 2013. I also worked for the BAE Systems and Intrepid Solutions as a senior analyst, an expert in analyzing video, radar, and advanced electro-optical imagery for official identification of aerial order of battle, as well as naval and ground. I'm a federal whistleblower, having testified to both the Intelligence Community Inspector General and All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office with direct, first-hand knowledge of and experience with craft and technologies commonly known as UFO or UAP that are not ours and that are reportedly operating without congressional oversight. Because of my direct knowledge of the reality of certain legacy UAP programs, my professional career was deliberately obstructed, and I have endured sustained reprisals from government agencies for more than a decade. From 2011 through 2013, I was stationed at Langley Air Force Base, Virginia, conducting 24-hour operations via manned and unmanned aerial vehicles for Special Operation Forces for the Global War on Terror. Okay. During the summer of 2012, my team was on standby for weather, and I returned to my barracks on base. At approximately 0130, I don't know how you say it, 0130, I don't know. I saw an approximately 100-foot-long equilateral triangle fly from near the NASA hangar on base and come within 100 feet of where I was standing. This craft interfered with my telephone, did not have any sound. The material it was made of appeared fluid or dynamic. I was under this triangular craft for a few minutes, and then it rapidly ascended to commercial jet level in seconds. It displayed zero kinetic disturbance, sound, or wind displacement. Some years after that experience, I was further exposed to classified information from the UAP Legacy Crash Retrieval Program through a sensitive position I held within a special access program. During this time, intelligence officers approached me in fear for their own careers, citing misconduct within these programs and the same retaliation I was already enduring. These issues included medical malpractice by Veteran Affairs staff, denial of work I performed while enlisted in the U.S. Air Force, forged and manipulated employment documents, workplace harassment, including colleagues being directed not to speak with me, and the manipulation of my security clearance records by certain agencies to block or delay my access to classified employment. The retaliation I faced and the retaliation against individuals I know who worked in these programs is what convinced me in March of 2023 to become a whistleblower. I came forward out of concern for people's lives and to ensure I did everything I could to let our elected representatives know the truth about what is really happening within the executive branch. At the end of March 2023, I agreed to meet with Aero, following the suggestion of other federal officials, believing it is what our nation required of me. I had reservations about Aero due to the assessments they were reporting reporting publicly at that time as a misrepresentation of the truth. Because of these concerns, I did not share sources and methods information to protect current and former federal personnel who had first-hand exposure to technologies of unknown origin. I did not want anyone to face further retaliation beyond what they had already endured. After David Grush testified under oath in the summer of 2023 and provided historic disclosure, I was then asked to go to the ICIG, and I did so in August 2023. It was very clear early on during my intake interview, which was video recorded under oath, that their objective was solely to assess just how much I know, not to move forward with an investigation based on new information. The aftermath of that IG complaint still troubles me to this day. Since my ICIG complaint, I have been prevented from resuming my prior employment and can confirm I am still blacklisted from certain agencies within the intelligence community. In addition, multiple agencies attempted phishing attacks to assess what I had divulged to the Inspector General, including being asked to disclose details of my ICIG complaint during a PSI polygraph for a position entirely unrelated to UFO UAP matters in November 2024. As I sit before you today, I and many other whistleblowers have no job prospects and no foreseeable professional future in a nation all of us came forward to defend. Numerous individuals have come forward in various ways to reveal the truth of the UAP reality as patriots and defenders of our nation, yet many feel discarded, isolated, and hopeless, separated from the country they serve. Efforts to rectify the situation for all whistleblowers have been difficult and troubling. And to my fellow whistleblowers and officials who have encountered these programs, I offer my apology that you are in this position. I swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States, an oath that demands truth and transparency for our democratic republic to function. Each day, these truths remain hidden from our citizens. Humanity drifts further from the principles our nation was founded to uphold. Each day, the victims of crimes committed by agencies and companies maintaining this secrecy are denied justice, as another day, the Constitution is effectively shredded. In 2023, patriots provided this committee and the executive branch with undeniable proof of the UAP reality, and I commend your continued commitment. The future of humanity is one in which we either travel to the stars or regress to the Stone Age with this technology. My career has been to deliver critical information to decision makers. Your role as elected representatives of the people is to act on it. The time to act is now. Dylan Borland. All right. Thank you for the 2 pages, Dylan. I think I could have handled the 12-page document right there. All right. Let's check out. So hopefully he gets some more questions, because clearly there's a lot more to find out about him and the program, right? He's basing a lot of this on this specific program and that sighting he had, right? Which is super interesting. All right, let's see here. Let's get to this last guy. Okay. So the last guy is right here. So I'm not going to read all of this. You'll see why. I mean, it feels a little like that's a logo, right? So it feels a little, I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to be diplomatic and nice here. Let's just move in here. Okay, I'll just keep my mouth shut. Testimony of Joe Spielberger. Spielberger? Kind of interesting. Senior Policy Council Project on Government Oversight before the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform Task Force on the declassification of. Okay, Chairman Logan Mayor, testimony. Thank you for the opportunity to testify here today. Okay, great. Oh, okay. To testify here today about the importance of strengthening whistleblower protections, especially in the context of national security. So it sounds like if you look through, right, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I don't like that. I don't like the logos and the websites and the email and the phone number. I don't like that. Right. It's just he's going to testify about whistleblowers and how they need more protection. And look, I mean, there's a lot of, I'm not going through all this. And it's all good stuff. I'm not saying it isn't, whistleblower protections, which I can get behind, right? So that's what he's there for, which is an interesting thing to testify about. I mean, I know that needs to happen, but I guess that's a part of it. I mean, I don't know, right? It's like about witnesses and stuff. Like people, he's not really a witness. He's coming. He's like a lobbyist, right? Basically putting a lobbyist up there. Again, I'm not saying I don't agree with that, but why can't this be a part of a press conference or something, not part of the hearing? Right? There's only so much time and witness it. Like he's got 5 pages. I mean, he's going to take up a lot of time. There's going to be way less questions now for Knapp, for Wiggins, for Gatelli, for Borland, right? But again, it is important. It seems like this could be like a 1-pager or something. We need whistleblower protect. Okay, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. Again, I'm not a fan of the logo and all the stuff on here and the I mean, this looks like internal document. You know what I mean? This looks like brochure stuff. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't have done that. But what do I know? All right, look. All right. I'll read the conclusion on 5 here. Let's do that. Where is it? Conclusion. Okay, conclusion. Okay, here we go. We'll read this. Whistleblowers are often unusually smeared as disloyal traitors, partisan political operatives, or sinister threats. While Congress has historically supported them on a strong bipartisan basis, whistleblowing has increasingly become more politicized, with support for whistleblowers hinging on which party is in power and which party is politically inconvenienced by the underlying misconduct being exposed. But targeting whistleblower risks undermining whistleblowing, period. Pogo continues to advise members of Congress on both sides of the aisle to focus on the evidence, not the individual. It is true that whistleblowers often have strong political beliefs. They can have many different motivations for speaking out. They can also be wrong, even when reporting in good faith. But whistleblowers shouldn't need to be squeaky clean in order to be taken seriously. We will always need whistleblowers who are willing to speak up to do the right thing if we seek a government that best serves the people. We strongly urge Congress to continue its historic tradition of championing the rights and protection of all whistleblowers. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify here this morning. We at Pogo appreciate this task force for holding this hearing and are committed to working closely with you and the committee at large to better support whistleblowers and strengthen transparency and oversight in our national security. I look forward to answering any questions. All right, so, why isn't New Paradigm Institute? That's literally what Danny Sheehan has always preached to me. Like, why isn't, Pogo? It's like they got their name. I don't know. So that's interesting. So we at Pogo, he's basically representing that. Again, not saying we don't need that. And maybe it's good. Maybe people will see that and go, okay, I can reach out to Pogo, which is a sentence I thought I'd never hear myself say. So, all right. Well, we read the statements, y'all. The hearing is tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time, but I'm doing my stream at 9:30 Eastern time in the morning, 30 minutes before, pregame it a little bit. And link is on the channel, on Embedded's channel. You'll be able to find it. I'm sure a lot of people are streaming it too, so no hard feelings if you don't come through here. All good, however you want to watch it. But we'd love to have you. I'll be there, bright-eyed, ready to do this. Always stream the hearings. And I to be honest, I can be a little boring because a lot of people want me to, maybe other channels talk a lot during the hearing. I don't talk a lot during the hearing. I barely say anything. I want us to hear the hearing. Definitely we'll talk after. Definitely we'll talk before. Only critical moments would I jump in to say something for the hearing. But anyway, guys, I have pretty much lost my voice. That was a lot of reading out loud. And I actually have a radio interview to do later for a couple hours on the West Coast. It's at 11 p.m. my time because I'm on the East Coast from 11 to 1 a.m. And I got to do the live stream tomorrow, so I need to save my voice as much as possible. Yeah, so I want to be good to go. Yeah, first radio interview for Vetted. Yeah, it's in 3 hours from now for me, so just get some rest and then do that. And yeah, so thank everyone for jumping on the stream. And, just put down in the comments what you guys think about these whistleblowers. I mean, really, we're going to find out tomorrow, less than 24 hours, a little more than 12 hours. We're going to hear the questions. We've seen the statements. We know what they've said. What are going to be some of these questions that they're going to ask, George Knapp, especially by some of the stuff he said, right? He provided stuff. That was also cool. He's like, I provided stuff along with my testimony. I didn't see anyone really say that except him. Now, what they do with it, that'll be a different story for sure. So thanks, Legend. Appreciate you, man. That'll be a different story to see how that goes tomorrow. So I got a couple of guests joining me tomorrow, and so I won't be alone. And we'll do a nice pregame and postgame about the hearing. See what happens. Hey, listen, every hearing there's been some sort of something. It may not be the something we want, but something happens. So that's it. All right, y'all. Get some rest. Thanks for jumping in. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.